getting stranded then. I wish this was me, but I was an observer. Several years ago, my friends decided that
Okay, I'm delaying to 3 videos, 3 or 4 videos until 4 videos until tomorrow, which are no 5 video. I'm delaying 5 videos until tomorrow. No 4. No 5. Yeah 5. No yeah 4. Mortal Kombat X Part 11 to 20. Marvel Spider-Man Part 11 to 18, and the Vaso Raven reaction, Vaso Raven Season 1 Episode 1 reaction, and via Hellcat, me reading Hellcat issue 1 and making it kind of like a audiobook type thing. Anyways, on to with this video.
I come, I'm good for it. I'm friend of a friend. I totally have enough money and time off for this vacation. Mind if I come along? Gandalf agrees and they all take off. The first day of driving goes well. Everyone pitches in for gas and tolls. And the second day, friend of a friend Freddy grumbles a bit, but pays up. They arrive at the beach house, and it's better than anyone imagined. People are having the time of their lives. Everyone's having a great time. There's food, booze, parties, more food, and everyone's just having a wonderful time. About 8 days in, as they're beginning to wind down, Gandalf realizes that Freddy hasn't paid for any food or any booze, and once he checks his notebook, not one dime for the beachfront condo they've been staying in. He quietly takes Freddy aside and points this out, and Freddy says, "Oh, well, to be honest, I don't really have the cash right now, but I will, as soon as I get home and go back to work. I'll pay you in a few weeks when I get paid next." What? No, that's not the agreement. Freddy, it's pay as you go. What were you thinking? And Freddy responds, "Well, to be honest, Gandalf, your driving really sucks. I was carsick most of the trip, and I hate vans. Why couldn't you have rented a top-of-the-line SUV instead? I would have gladly pitched in for that. I didn't agree to be in this awful, undignified van. And by the way, where did you find this condo? I didn't agree to stay here. Oh my god, this condo. I wouldn't let house pigs in this condo. I'm not paying you." Gandalf is stunned and quite understandably disgusted. Freddy wanders off to the beach. Gandalf quietly approaches the group. 4 days later, Freddy leaves the beachfront condo to go meet some friends in town. The group decide to get some revenge on this vacation freeloader who still hasn't paid his tax, but has been eating and drinking like the world is ending. They all clean out, jump into the van, and hit the highway, a day early and ahead of schedule. Friend of our friend Freddy ended up losing her job because she wasn't able to get back in time since she was trapped several states away. No money, no way to get home. Oh, and all the people she called for help? Through the grapevine, it turns out she'd pulled similar stunts before, so no one was willing to loan her any cash. I wonder how many times Freddy has pulled this little ruse. But, as a plus, she didn't have to ride back in that ugly van that she apparently hated. The things you about authority and controlling every aspect of our lives. We were kept so isolated and made to fear the police and child protective services to the point where we thought it was normal. After I went off to college, my little brother came out as gay, and my father started beating him, unbeknownst to my mother and I. When my brother threatened to tell my mom about this, my father disowned him and kicked the then 15-year-old out of the house. My mother was understandably horrified by this and tried to get my father to see sense, at which point he started attacking her. Long story somewhat short, I got my mom out, my brother went to live with friends, and divorce proceedings were started. While my mom was cleaning out her stuff from the house, under the watchful eye of her amazing coworkers, found my father's discharge papers. And this is where the plan started. You see, my father spent his entire 25-year marriage telling everyone, friends, families, employers, that he was a Special Forces vet who had been awarded a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star, which were both coincidentally destroyed in a house fire, along with all of his uniforms and paperwork. But here were his discharge papers, and they clearly stated that page listing his discharge, and then we sent them on the same page to the nearest with current address listed as his current church. They arrived on or around Veterans Day from Atlanta, Orlando, Washington, D.C., New York, Kansas City, Seattle, Portland, Houston, Ontario, London, and Edinburgh. Immediately, my mother was inundated with calls and emails from people who had no idea and couldn't believe he would lie like that, and were sorry for not believing her and my brother. My dad sent a nasty email implying horrible things if he could ever prove that my mother did this, which she forwarded straight to her lawyer, along with the nasty letters from his more vocal supporters. Now most people in our hometown look at her as the battered spouse who walked out with her head held high, rather than that tramp who divorced such a godly man. My little brother has no idea we did this, but later told me that he got a random call from our old pastor apologizing for kicking him out of the church over my father's lies. And I can finally sleep well at night with the knowledge that his reputation, all the records, dates, bill of sale, etc., mailed the copies off to the courthouse. It was his citation, but I had to prove it to the court. 2 weeks later, I got another letter from Buzz, another ticket, and this time for speeding. Same driver, same car, same plates, with my name still attached. Again, I had to copy all the paperwork, write a long letter to the clerk, and mail it off to the courthouse. The third ticket made me really mad. I started making calls and discovered that this scam is pretty common. Some folks buy a junker and rack up fines until they wreck or abandon the car, and their name was never on it, so nobody bothers to punish them for it. It's all on the previous owner to clean up the mess and prove who was at fault. This time, I wrote an extra long letter to the court clerk and did a little research to include the guy's picture, home address, and listed phone number. A few months went by, and I thought it was over backseat. The fifth and sixth tickets felt like Groundhog's Day. I didn't even bother to put the paperwork away. I kept it out on my desk, ready to copy. By the time the seventh ticket arrived, we were well over a year beyond the sale, and enough was enough. This wasn't some dude forgetting to do paperwork, or not knowing the right way to go about buying a car. This was intentional. It was time for some bro revenge. First, I called the police, and after a week of back and forth, finally spoke with a traffic cop who said enough is enough, and went to pay the guy a visit. He said he couldn't disclose what would happen during that discussion, but the total amount of the likely unpaid traffic tickets was enough to get his attention. The tickets and late fee.
I choose WGU.
The tickets and in repeated dangerous and illegal situations, all of which were verifiable by photo evidence and court documents. After that, I stopped getting traffic tickets from him. Maybe the car finally gave out. So the moral of the story is to always transfer the plates to your name, because if you speed too many times, you may lose your kids. Guys, and that wraps up another episode of r/Pro Revenge. If you guys missed the last episode of r/Pro Revenge, a dog sitter absolutely trashes OP's house, and it's a wild ride. If you want to hear stories about people getting mistaken as regular Joe Schmoes while doing their jobs, take a look at this video, where OP is a landscaper digging holes in a backyard, and has the cops called on him for suspicious activity. I hope you guys got your revenge fix for the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/Pro Revenge, where many of you come to listen to stories about people getting what they deserve. Guys, in today's episode, there's two stories. The first, OP gets sent some borderline psychotic messages from someone on Tinder and goes on the hunt to ruin them. The second story is a little bit longer and involves a dog sitter who's 25 now. I met a guy on Tinder. Let's call him Brad. So Brad and I didn't get off to a great start, but I had no idea how bad it was going to get. At first, it just seemed like we were incompatible, as he was being pushy and rude, and I don't like to take that stuff. If it had stopped there, I wouldn't be here right now, but it didn't stop there. So once I made it clear that I found Brad repulsive and wanted nothing to do with him, his messages took a turn. He threatened to stalk, kidnap, and murder me, along with some gory details about gouging eyes and defiling my corpse. Particularly disturbing was his explicit desire to quote-unquote strangle me and watch the life leave my eyes. He also managed to find my home address, 3 hours away from the city we were in, and threatened to come find me. As a side note, it was my dad's house, and some small part of me wanted to see exactly how bad it would have turned out for him if he showed up there. Of course, I warned my dad and gave him a picture of the guy. I also took screenshots of everything he sent me. So, the petty revenge first. Being a young woman with no idea whether this madman would actually go to lengths to find me, I called the cops. When they came, they looked at the messages, told me it constituted terroristic threats, but also told me that there wasn't much they could do unless Brad actually showed up. They did take down his details, including where he worked, which is listed in his bio. This will be important for later. From what I understand, the cops went to Brad's workplace to speak with him, and he...
This is restaurant, right? We have to change the chemistry.
I just never had plátanos with like grass on it.
FX is the bear. All episodes streaming June 23rd.
Probably thought he was in the clear. Something jogged my memory of what he did, and I decided it was time for him to face some actual consequences. I made a Facebook post, including his picture and bio, all of the screenshots, and a message warning people in our area and asking them to share it around so other women would know exactly what they were dealing with. 2 days later, Facebook took it down, but the damage had already been done. 3,000 soon learned that this was not the case. Several women from his company messaged me to thank me for coming forward and exposing the kind of person they were working with. It was through one of these women that I found out what happened to good old Brad. He was called into a meeting with his boss, HR, and the CEO of the company. As a side note, this is a multinational company, and the CEO is a woman. They did not take the situation lightly. Within 2 days of posting on Facebook, Brad had been fired and escorted off the premises by armed security. In the end, Brad got what he deserved, and now has a massive blank spot in his resume, as this company was his first job out of college, and he can no longer get a letter of recommendation from them. As far as what became of him, I don't know. I never heard from him again, though I did get a message from his grandma telling me that what I was doing is illegal. Guys, this happens more often than you think. And one guy even threatened to find my friend, saying that he knows where she works, where she lives, and he just went borderline psycho, and nothing ever came of that situation. In this case, Brad just happened to mess with the wrong person that one day. This story is titled, Don't Tell Mom, the Dog Sitter's Dad. My sister moved out from South Carolina from Florida about a year ago, but she still visits us periodically. We're a big and close family. So shortly after Thanksgiving, she flew down with her husband and son for one such visit. She has 3 geriatric dogs, so she got a house/dog sitter. So my sister went through the basics of how they can only be fed at certain times, how they get let out at certain times, how they need to be in their crates from X hour to Z hour. Most importantly, they don't get treated. Vitamins, asthma, and allergies. She's also got a ton of painkillers from when she had my nephew not that long ago, but she never used them. It's a full bottle. This is relevant for later. On top of that, she's been a collector of rare beer for about 15 years now. She has beer that's not even sold anymore because they were promotional. Beer that she can't get anymore because she doesn't live in Florida. Those bottles she keeps mostly as decoration in her kitchen. On the 6th day of her vacation, the dog sitter stops all communication altogether. My sister texts, calls, emails, nothing. An account of all the bottles and drugs that were on the dog sitter. So my sister works in advertising. I won't say what kind, but basically, if she saw or sees the dog sitter advertising herself as a dog sitter ever again, she has the means to drag this lady until she sees mud for the rest of her life. So the dog sitter insists that she's going to pay it all back, but that my sister has to wait until they get their taxes back. Okay, so my sister waits. It's now late February, and she texts the dog sitter asking where her money is. The dog sitter immediately starts saying how she didn't do anything wrong, how my sister is a bad dog owner, and her dogs are miserable. And none of the stuff my sister said she did was actually done. This goes on for a while, and eventually, the dog sitter starts saying that as a courtesy, she has a friend who owns a furniture store, and she'll give my sister a credit of $200 for a new couch, and that she has an old rug that she doesn't want anymore that my sister can just have for free. What? She paid my sister about $500, but insists that she'll get a coupon to my sister soon. March goes by, and nothing. Around March 20th, my sister marches her happy butt to small claims courts and files. She then snaps pictures of everything, and she sends the dog sitter the message. She says, as a courtesy, I'm letting you know that I just filed this at the small claims court. And this is where the fun starts. This lady goes off on my sister. She says she's going to sue for slander and undue distress and harassment and blah, 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 blah. My sister saves all of it, including the fun bits where the dog sitter threatens her family and calls her the C word 20 dozen times. So April 6th rolls around, and it's the court date. The lady shows up, looking like she just got run through a garbage disposal. She gives the judge her sob story, talking about how she did nothing but give my sister and her animals the best care, and that my sister is making all of this up. And yeah, my sister has the OG cop with her. She's got pictures of all the damage. The couple steals a car from OP's car dealership, and in the end, OP gets sweet revenge that involves the couple losing their kids. I hope you guys got your revenge fix for the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/Pro Revenge, where you'll hear some tales of people getting what they deserve. Guys, in this episode, there's 3 stories. The first is a shady couple who basically steals a car from a dealership. The second is how OP deals with an annoying upstairs neighbor. And we'll finish off with the story of a parent getting some sweet revenge on her neighbor because her neighbor made fun of her child. Seriously, who does that? Guys, I hope you stay for the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future stories. Let's get into it. This first story is titled, Steal My Car, I'll Wreck Your Life. Backstory. I'm a part of a small family-owned used car dealership. We have maybe 50 cars on the lot at any time, and our main business is subprime, or people with less than perfect credit. We truly want to help the people that can't afford or have credit to buy from a new car dealership. We're actually very liked in our small community. So recently, I had these customers. Let's call her wife and him husband. They're early 20s. They come into my dealership, and I like them. They seem like a nice young couple, trying to start their lives out. They have 2 very sweet little girls, and look like they could just use a break. They've made some mistakes in their personal lives, and have less than perfect credit. I coach them on how to improve their credit, and they seem sincerely interested in fixing it, so I bust my ass to get them a loan. I've been taken for a ride. They've been ignoring my calls and texts, and totally ghosting me. I get a call from the bank, and come to find out, that they haven't made their first payment either. Now, with this particular bank, if a customer does not make their first payment, we have to essentially buy back the deal. Basically, we have to give the bank the money they sent us for the loan. After blowing up their phones and leaving almost 10 voicemails, they finally call me back. I get a sob story that he got let go from his job and he just got a new one, and mom is going to help them get back on their feet. I go to hell and high water with the bank to make a deal that if they make their payment, they'll keep the loan once he starts getting his paychecks. So I agree. They make their payment to the bank, and I go about my life until the next month comes around. The bank notifies me saying that the wife didn't make the next month's payment and won't answer any of their calls. At this point, I'm furious, and I'm ready to get their vehicle. They won't answer any of my calls, so I call their mom, who co-signed for the vehicle, which I hated to do, but she's responsible for the loan as well. Mom scrounges everything in her Social Security paycheck to help try to make the payment for
What are you doing?
Wife and husband tells her that they'll cover the balance. The bank says the deal's a buyback, and we need her money back for the loan within 7 days. Now, the only way that I can pay back their loan is if my floor plan, which is basically a giant credit card to buy cars on, gets pictures of the car in my possession. I try to call, text, and email to get a hold of the wife and husband, and they block me on everything. They're basically just stealing the vehicle without paying. They even blocked mom, and trying to help them get this handled. So yes, they even screwed over their own mother in this ordeal. I just want the car back and move on with my life. So this is where I go pro-revenge on them.
Wait, their mother? I thought they were dating. How can they have the same mother?
To file charges against them. I do some skip tracing, calling family members, all of which are more happy to help because come to find out,
What?
the husband has had 7 jobs in 4 months and has burned every single family member with the money they borrowed. I find the wife's father on Facebook. I find out that the father has been trying to take custody of the 2 kids because of how they treat them. He informs me that they're staying in a sister's house right over the border. Note that we're on the cell, drive an hour to go get the vehicle. They've been hiding it in the garage, according to the neighbors and repo company. I do some researching to find out that they're both on probation for stealing a bunch of stuff from multiple stores. So I, of course, find and call up Mrs. Probation Officer to see if she has the last known address. I then mention to her that they're staying above the state line and bounced a very large check to me, and they're facing fresh charges in my town. She appreciates the knowledge. Now, while I was up at their house one evening, I talked to one of the neighbors, who also hates them, and convinced the neighbor to call me if they see the vehicle or get the vehicle. After many expletives berating my friend, they hand over the vehicle, but not before calling me and telling me that they're gonna sue me for everything I've got. I'm out quite a bit of money from the ordeal, but here's the best part. I just found out that by living out of state, they violated probation and just got sentenced to 30 days in jail from that. And they also had their video court date with the local judge on the new charges of the bounced check. I got my car back, and guess what? They lost their kids. Deadbeat wife's father got custody, and it goes to show that even people with the biggest hearts that truly want to help people can only be messed with so many times until they decide that enough is enough. He also helped to make the kids' lives much better. What a great pro-revenge story.
We want to change this restaurant. We have to change the chemistry.
Yo, thumbs up. I just never had plátanos with like grass on it.
FX is the Bear. All episodes streaming June 23rd, only on Hulu.
This next story is titled, The Most Expensive Way Ever to Get the Police Involved. My wife and I had a first-floor condo in what had previously been a nice complex. Unfortunately, over time, the couple who lived above us, hereafter designated as AA for angry alcoholic and AAG for louder about their drinking, nearly every night became a massive screaming match between them. They'd stay up until 2 a.m., shouting at each other at the top of their lungs. And then one of them would put on music at full blast to drown out the other. Their taste in music wasn't actually bad, but when it's 2 a.m. and my floor is vibrating, it's a problem. Sometimes they'd even take their fight out into the parking lot, just to be sure all the neighbors were treated to a detailed explanation of who had cheated on who, and who was threatening to dump who. Neither of them ever actually left. They just went out to their car and threatened to, loudly. After arguments, the following day, you could usually find the guy working on his car in the carport, right outside of our front door. As far as I can tell, all he did was sit there warning, which AA and AAG ignored. Eventually, the condo board started finding them, but AA found a genius solution: just don't pay the fine. All the condo board could do was eventually put a lien on AA's condo, but that would only become a problem for them when they sold the place. Apparently, they couldn't actually foreclose on him, or maybe they just didn't want to go to the trouble. Trying to talk to him directly was useless. If we managed to catch him during a rare moment of sobriety, he'd just kind of blow us off. But if we caught him while he was drunk, he'd get pretty threatening, and was then even louder for days. We even tried calling the police, but they weren't interested unless he had actually crossed the line to a felony. They gave him a few warnings, which he also ignored, that definitely included AA and AAG. As we've moved, AA had been arrested multiple times. He had his car impounded at least once. Apparently, now he's trying to be quieter, but that only lasts until he gets drunk, and then he's screaming again, and then the cycle of getting arrested continues. His new downstairs neighbor has long ago had enough of this, and does not appreciate it that he wakes up her kid, and I guess she also doesn't appreciate that he shouts at her. He's in an obnoxious neighbor war with the cop, and he's losing badly. Hopefully soon he'll wind up in jail for longer than a couple of days. Guys, that condo board needs to get their act together. So my friend lives in a condo, and was recently threatened with eviction, because someone complained about her dog being too loud, and was always barking. So how the heck did this... I figured she was just trying to experience college life, so why not? You do, you lady. Anyway, one summer night last year, she was sitting out on her back patio with her girlfriends, doing their drunk thing. I'm out wrapping up some stuff with my toddler daughter. So she at the time had a medical thing going on that caused her to walk a little weird. Nothing life-altering, and something that would heal with time. She did have a weevil waddle to her, especially when running. Sometimes she would fall right over. She was out running around with the dog, and the ladies next door were waving and telling her how cute she was. All good. So we go back inside, and I hand her off real quick to the husband. I want to go to the bedroom real fast to change the sheets for bed later. Now, to set the scene, my bedroom is closest to the patio next door. The windows are open because, well, it's summer and it's hot out. I can clearly hear what they're talking about next door. Okay guys, I have to pause here and let you know that the next part is what OP wrote, and I'm just reading it exactly as is. I don't mean this to be offensive to anybody in any way. It's just if I censor it, I'll take away from the story, so I apologize in advance. The girl says, "Did you see the way she was walking? What a little retard." Then they sang, "My little retard, my little retard," to the cheerful tune of My Little Pony. I guess because that's what my kid had been wearing. This was followed by on her heartfelt apology. Needless to say, the boyfriend's gonna go with whatever gets him terminated from a company, all because she doesn't like him. Guys, fasten your seatbelts for this ride because it's so crazy. I hope you stay for the story today, and do hit that subscribe button for future revenge stories. Let's get into it. This story is titled, "Coworker Gets Me Fired, My Many Years Waiting for Revenge." If revenge is best served cold, then my revenge was many years in the freezer, and this week was finally pulled out, and had whipped cream and a cherry put on top before it was finally served. Background. So I worked for Company A for almost a decade that had one small team consisting of 10 people doing commissioned work for businesses in my city. The owner treated us like family, Knowing that we worked long and hard days, sometimes 60 hours a week, he paid us better than expected, with bonuses on the regular. He even gave the whole company a week off paid when his son was getting married so we could attend it. We had our squabbles like any other family, and things weren't always bright and perfect. But this is to show how nice the owner treated his employees, and didn't screw me over. I was the cause of many issues, and couldn't wait for me to leave. Oh, and she was never